My name is Bryan Rice. I'm a third-generation wine grower, and I've been making wine for over 2 decades here in Santa Barbara wine country. It's more than a job. It's a calling. Join me as I talk to my fellow winemakers in a series that is a candid conversation between winemakers discussing their wines, their craft, and their lives over 2 glasses of wine. Hi, I'm Bryan Rice, and welcome to 2 Glasses In. I'm here with Bryan Babcock of the famous Babcock Winery, and I'm honored to have you here today, Bryan. Thank you for being here.
It's great to be here. I usually find in these kinds of things that if the guy who's asking the questions is also a winemaker, it keeps it interesting.
That's what I was thinking too. In the concept of this show, we were really looking to bring some of the friends that I've had over the last 2 decades to the table and talk about our region, talk about our styles, our philosophies, but also get to know you a little bit better. Something I may have not known about you before.
Right on.
So we're 2 glasses in. We've been talking about a little bit of politics of wine and possibly some of the more, winemaker geeky stuff that some people may not need to know.
Right.
So, but today I was really hoping we could talk about you and what drives you and your passions. But tell me about the winemaking styles of today that you're working on, and maybe elaborate a bit on what makes your wines different.
The last 20 years has really been all about mastering the classics because my backyard exploded. The Santa Rita Hills exploded. And so whereas I started the process in 1984, I was the only vineyard and winery on Highway 246. Of the appellation that we are on, there's probably 30, 35 vineyards now and 6 to 8 wineries along 246. And the same thing has happened, of course, over on Santa Rosa Road in the southern end of the appellation. So there's spectacular vineyard after spectacular vineyard, and it's just like I'm a kid in a candy store. And so I've been able to put together just a wonderful portfolio of single vineyard, single block, stunning Pinots like the one that we're tasting out of Block 3 at Bent Rock. These little sites where you just find these magical pockets of soil so that you really taste the signature of that soil and that climat in the wine.
So tell me about this Pinot. I'm really excited to taste this. It's called Déjà Vu 2017 vintage.
I brought this wine to drive home the concept and the idea of terroir. This wine is so earthy and so expressive of the soil that it's grown in. So it's a small block of Pinot at the spectacular Bent Rock Vineyard over on Santa Rosa Road. And this block has, from day one, has just been making these wines that they just express themselves a little bit. It's just like another level, another layer of earthiness and complexity. And it's kind of very specific every year. So you really get the feeling that the signature in the wine is coming from that dirt.
That's what it's all about, right?
Yes.
So many winemakers are terroirists. They're very much about capturing the essence of the site in the bottle. And how much is that for you important versus stylizing the wine in the cellar?
Well, when you look at Pinot Noir in the Santa Rita Hills, this is such a good conduit to the soil and to expressing that soil, right? Some varieties you want to blend, but Pinot Noir is all about expressing that dirt from that place. I mean, you can blend, you can make nice wines. Right now, my head is all wrapped around terroir, and sort of this single vineyard stuff. I call the wine Déjà Vu because it's grown on a little protrusion on the Bent Rock property, looking down over the San Ynez River, sort of slightly south facing. And I used to, back in the day when there were no vineyards over there except Sanford and Benedict, I would just drive around over there and dream about, what's this place going to be like if there's vineyards on all these hillsides? Well, that day is now. And this little bench top where Block 3 is at Bent Rock is one place where I would just just stop and drool. Like, what if there's a vineyard on that thing someday? And then sure enough, I drove up to it and it was like, oh my God. And I was having this deja vu moment, like, right? There's the vineyard I've always dreamed about. I've been there before, at least mentally. And then went into a state of panic, like, oh my God, who's doing this? I got to get their phone number because I have to work with that vineyard right there.
I'll tell you what, it's just beautiful now, but it tastes, and the mouthfeel of the wine makes me think it's going to last a long time.
It should, yeah. Good tannins, great acidity, good balance. Yeah, it should go the distance. I don't know if there is another county or geographical region that has quite as much as we do. just look at San Ynez, where you start in the Santa Rita Hills in the cool climate and all the opportunities there. You migrate into the middle, the Ballard Canyon area, probably some of the best Syrah maybe on the planet. And then you go further in, like where you guys are in Happy Canyon, things warm up, and then there's a whole another cornucopia of opportunities in varieties and different ways to farm. I would say that's probably, there's so many different things going on that's probably what sets us apart.
Maybe you could tell me that story I heard about stealing substrate from UC Davis Vineyard.
Oh, my first wine. It's probably one of the craziest experiences that I've ever had in the wine business, and it was right in the beginning. I was at the University of California, Davis, sitting in a lot of classrooms, looking at a lot of chalkboards, and it was all very interesting, but I wasn't really getting my hands on anything, I wanted to see some fermentation, right? And I had noticed in one of my VIT classes that in some of the student vineyards, at the end of the year, they would get all their data, they would do all their teaching, students would learn everything about farming, and then they would cut the fruit to the ground because there's just no commercial destination for the fruit, right? So walk past this one block one day, and I'm like, well, what's with all this fruit on the ground? And I asked the assistant, he goes, oh, we're done. We're just done with it. We've got our data. I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. So I called my buddy, who was a friend of mine when I was an undergraduate. I said, bro, get over here tonight. We are gonna make some wine. We drove over, it was like midnight, we drove over to the student block where I knew the fruit was with this big, massive trash can. But the fruit's just right there on the ground, so we're just, putting fruit in the trash can and just loving life and everything's cool. And then we got up to this fence, and I realized I probably made my first winemaking mistake, because this trash can now weighed like 250 pounds, right? And we had to get it up and over the fence. And so we got it up, and we sort of got it nestled on the fence, teeter-tottering, and then we lost control of it, and then went flying, and the next thing I know, we're like on the ground, wallowing in grapes. And then...
How old were you at this point?
22.
Yeah.
Right? And then we see flashlights coming toward us. And we're on the ground, and sure enough, it's the police. And they're like, hey, boys, what are you doing? So I introduced myself. Well, hello, officer. I'm Bryan Babcock, and I'm a graduate student here at the University of California. And I'm working on my master's, and I made a mistake in the lab. And I've got this hyperactive enzyme that comes from Denmark, and it only lasts 48 hours.
And he's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. In the middle of my trial, I made a mistake, and now I need some more substrate. He's like, what? I go, I need some more grapes for my trial. I go, why else would I be out here? And he's like, he looks at his partner. So the guy goes, you know what? That's a pretty good story. So I'll tell you what, me and my partner, we're going to drive around the block. And we get back, and you guys are still here, then you're going to come with us, and we're going to take you downtown. So the guy leaves, and I just frantically start scooping the grapes. I'm just scooping up everything, mud, dirt, rocks, and Ted's like, what are you, let's get out of here. I go, come on, Teddy, let's go. So we got like half a trash can full, and then hightailed it out of there, made it back to my apartment, and then I made my second viticultural mistake in my life, which was to take my crop and put it in my bathtub, which was also my shower, and which was, it's got to ferment.
You made a bathtub wine.
Yeah, a bathtub wine, and which was fine until I realized I can't take a shower now.
For 2 weeks?
For 3 weeks, right?
Oh, man.
So it's a blend of Grenache Blanc and Clairette.
So Bryan, tell me about this.
So this wine, I brought this wine because it's such an expression of the county and what's happening in Santa Barbara County. So this is a blend of a couple of Rhone varieties. Most people, if you're a wine drinker, you've heard of Marsanne or Roussanne or Viognier, or maybe even Grenache Blanc. This is a blend of Grenache Blanc and another grape called Clairette.
That's so rare. Very few people know about these
This
varieties.
could be the only blend of its kind on the planet right now.
So how did you get access to Clairette?
I freaked out one day when somebody told me Martian Vineyard had some planted. And I thought, I was thinking I might not see Clairette in my lifetime, right? So then I found out, lo and behold, Martian's got some. I called them, I said, could you part with a ton of the Clairette? And they're like, yeah. So sure enough, I put the juice in a barrel, I ferment it, and there's always that moment, you know, you're walking past it, you're so curious, right? It's the first Clairette I've ever made. What's that smell like? And you go past it, you put your ear on the barrel, oh, it's still fermenting. And then tomorrow, you walk past, you go, it's still hissing, it's still fermenting. And then you go up to it and say, it's silent, it's done. And you know, if you grab your thief, there's gonna be a couple inches on the surface that are clear, where the yeast has started to fall out. Sure enough, I grab my thief, I put some in a glass, and I smell it, and I'm just like, why does nobody care about this grape? So that's the idea behind Galvanized Synergy. It's the idea of using the development of the county viticulturally to try to take synergy of the varieties in the glass of the blend, take synergy to the next level. So I'm the galvanizer, right?
Yeah, you are.
And the synergy is right there. So what I'm doing in the vineyard, I started off this year with about 1,000 oak trees in my nursery, and we planted about half of those to this point, and the other half will be going in. Hopefully we get them in before harvest.
So you're reforesting, and I heard about this butterfly habitat that you're building as well.
Yes.
Tell me about
So
that.
as part of agri-aesthetics, which is the overall concept, the idea of treating your agricultural domain as a piece of art, you know, the 100-acre canvas. And around the forest, we are also studying different species of flowers and milkweeds. The idea being we can paint a hillside with color if we can find a flower indigenous or close to that likes the soil, likes the climate, kind of like you know, grapes. You know, if you're going to make great wine, you want that variety to be suited to the soil and the climate of where it's planted. Looking for flowers that have extended bloom, they smell great, and they attract butterflies. And then we'll lace into the different colors of flowers, we'll lace all these milkweeds, which is of course what butterflies like to feed and reproduce.
You know, you and I have been in this industry long enough to know you're one of the longest running wineries in the county of Santa Barbara. And your tasting room is located out in between Buellton and Lompoc, roughly halfway, I would say, on Highway 246.
Yeah, right in the middle on Highway 246.
And that was where the original vineyard was, and you built a winery. And I was there when you had your family living in the winery, and there was couches and, you know, between the tanks, and your kitchen was there. You were cooking lunch for the team. And so you've really seen this place evolve. And now I understand Lisa, your wife, has added on this spectacular tasting room experience with amazing merchandise.
She's just a genius when it comes to creating a retail atmosphere or merchandising things. And so when we cut our production down a few years ago, it gave us back one of our warehouses, a 5,000 square foot warehouse. And we gave Lisa the keys, and she's turned it into the most spectacular tasting room on the planet. Vintage clothing, vinyl, music, color, antiques, great wines, you know, all these little vignettes and areas where you can easily spend an afternoon just checking stuff out and chilling. And
I have a feeling my wife would love it there.
Bring her out. She'll dig it. Now I'm at a point with what's happened in Santa Barbara County overall, and the development that's popped up now from end to end, the Happy Canyon, the Lisos Canyon, the Los Alamos area, Los Olivos, it's just exploded. And so there's so many opportunities, and there's new varieties. I feel like I'm starting all over again in some ways. But now I've got just enough wisdom to be dangerous. But it's nice to, you know, when you see something new, your gut tells you what you should do with it and where you should go with it. So I really feel good about the point that I'm at, where it took me 10 years before I felt like I could really make good wine, you know, consistently. 20 years in, I felt like, okay, now I think I see the big picture. I can stylize things. I really know how I want to express myself as a craftsman. And now, you know, 30 years in, now it's like, okay, yeah, we're pretty good at this. And now what else is out there?
One of the things I love about the wine business is the fact that it is such a scarce product. You can't just replicate it anywhere. And I think that's what gives us our unique proposition in the marketplace in terms of the terroir theory. You know, you can't replicate that anywhere else on earth. And, you know, we get one crop a year We can't, it's not like barley or hops where you can grow it all year.
Just call it in, yeah.
Right? And so that's why I think our story is so attractive to people, is that it is unique, it is rare, and so much passion and love goes into creating it.
Yep. You just, every fall, you just got to get in the batter's box.
Like I said, we're kids in a candy store, and we're very blessed to be in Santa Barbara wine country, and I'm really delighted to share it with you, Bryan.
Cheers.
Thank you.
My pleasure.